everyone, and welcome back to the Damage Report. I'm Johnny Rolla. Today is Big News Wednesday. We always say that every Wednesday is Big News Wednesday, but this is 50% bigger than any Big News Wednesday before. The one constant, Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
Well, it's a Big News Wednesday, so I have to bring the big news. I was a little concerned that you were going to talk about Hunter Biden today, and I was like, well, I'll just come angry and ready to yell at John. But thankfully, no.
Wait, ready to yell at me because I cared to cover it at all, or what?
Oh yeah, because of that.
Well, so I came across on Twitter that he swore or something. I don't know.
More than that,
he's not a public figure. I don't care about Hunter Biden. He's not in the administration.
Racialist terms, and again.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Well, then that sucks. Thankfully, he's not in charge of our Israel-Palestine policy, so it doesn't matter. I'm sure that my brothers have said things that I don't agree with. They're not on the show. I don't understand. Oh God, people.
It's fun.
Okay, well, we're into Big News Wednesday. Jayar, thank you for being here. We've got a lot that we're gonna be talking about through the course of this show. And we're gonna be starting off with something that's gonna make us at least as angry, which is Joe Manchin. So that's gonna be fun. But we've got a lot coming, including 2 of the dumbest videos I've seen in some time. So get ready for that as well. And thank you to all of you who are already here. Please hit the like button and share the stream if you haven't already done that. And as we go through, if you want to send us tweets, super chats, comments, stuff like that, we will be responding to those in the 2 social breaks that we'll be taking today. We'll see what people think about that. So that's all coming up and more. And with that, Jayar, are you ready to talk about Hunter Biden? I mean the news.
Oh my God. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. I almost made another joke about Hunter Biden. I'm gonna avoid doing it. Anyway, so I enjoy going to The Intercept, and Ryan Grimm is one of my favorite journalists, actually. However, he had this article today that I saw about Republican fears that Joe Manchin's concrete hard opposition, the filibuster, might not be as durable or as predictable as they think. And I just thought, don't do that to me, buddy. Don't put out the football and then I run up to kick it and then you laugh and pull it away, because that's definitely what's happening here. And it started like this. Republican senators are anything but confident that Joe Manchin will stand by his op-ed in West Virginia's Charleston Gazette Mail this weekend, promising to oppose his party's efforts to reform the filibuster, along with, let's not forget, his opposition to the For the People Act. So, like Ryan Grimm's good journalist, so he's got quotes from them, and that is what the Republicans are saying. So this is all, bear in mind, after Joe Manchin had his meeting with civil rights leaders about the filibuster and about the For the People Act. Bear in mind, Joe Manchin came out of that meeting still refusing to reform the filibuster and still against the For the People Act. Although he said the meeting, Jayar, was constructive and informative, it just didn't construct a Joe Manchin that cared about voter suppression, and it didn't inform him about anything that he didn't already know. He knew about all this stuff. He's still gonna be against it. So we're gonna have those Republican quotes soon. But just briefly, what did you think about this, the meeting with the civil rights leaders?
Politicians are gonna politic. That's all he's doing here. Oh, I'm gonna meet with some civil rights leaders and I'm gonna talk about the issues that they have with my stances on allowing the Republican Party to do everything they can to completely derail any kind of progress in the country. So yeah, I met with them and it was informative, and I learned some things. Okay. I wasn't there when he said that statement. Maybe he was walking by. Maybe no one got a chance to ask him the next question of, so what did you learn? What did they inform you of? Did it affect your decision on this? Because nope. You can just say anything's informative. Yeah, I was watching TV. I was watching some garbage reality TV, and it was informative. Was it informative? What did it inform you on? How stupid it is? Did it inform you that it's a smart thing?
Jayar,
did it inform you that it changes your mind?
I didn't know what happened below deck before I watched that show. Now I know a lot happens below deck. Anyway. Yeah, what did it inform?
It's to pass the time. It's to say, yeah, I talked to the black folks. The black folks talked to me. I learned something from them. Not I dismissed them. I learned something from those black folks. So therefore, We good now? There's never a conclusion to these statements. It's always open-ended. I'm disappointed. Who are you disappointed in? Why are you disappointed in them? Hey, what are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just disappointed. I've been informed. Now what, Joe?
Yep. You know what, Jayar? Nothing. That's gonna happen. So, and that was what we think. So Republican senators, we're pretty sure that Joe Manchin means what he says. They're not though. So Tim Scott had to say, "You think it's over? I'm not confident on anything until the day after it's been done." So I appreciated his comments and thought that was a strong, smart move for the country, opposing everything. And I hope that he continues to have that approach to S1 as well as the filibuster. A strong, smart move, okay? Tommy Tuberville said, when asked if he thought Manchin's opposition was a done deal, you can't guess at that. And here's the best statement. This is, there's two good ones. This is Joe Kennedy. I don't know whether he will or won't. He understands that peace of mind up here comes with grabbing a principle and hanging on. Yeah, they care about their principles. He's really good at withstanding the pressure, but they've put a lot of pressure on him. They really have. They've beat him like he stole Christmas, and they're not gonna stop. They didn't, what Grinch did you, they didn't beat the Grinch. That's exciting, I'd watch that, but they did not do that. They're gonna call him names, they're gonna talk about his mama, they're gonna do everything they can. Knowing Joe as I know Joe, I don't think it'll do any good. Trust me, I've talked about his mama a ton and it has never had any effect on him. So that is Joe Kennedy. We'll have one more, but they're so worried. Joe Kennedy's not super worried, but the others, they're just really worried, Jayar.
No, they're not.
Are they?
No, not at all. This is a continuing warning shot. It's, hey, Joe, we see all the pressure that's being put on you. We see them talking about you like your mama, whatever he said, like you stole Christmas and they're talking about your mama. Hey, make sure you hold the line because we will talk about you from now on if you decide to go that direction. Now, just it's like a check-in. It's making sure. It's like, hey, you still okay, Joe? Okay, good. Without saying it directly. We're watching this very closely. You are the key. You better keep with the program, or else things are gonna get really bad for you.
Now, I wish that we had money to fund some animation because I just want to have the Grinch like getting out of the shower and Stewie's there asking him, "Where's my Christmas?" I want to see that right now.
By the way, the Grinch, when he stole Christmas, you know what he had? What happened at the end of it? In case for all you who didn't get to read it because the libs canceled Dr. Seuss, the Grinch had a change of heart.
He did.
Grinch's heart
became a better person.
3-4 sizes that day, 2 times bigger that day, and he picked up the damn Christmas gifts and sent them back into the village. He changed his mind because it was right. But you can compare him to the Grinch when the libs are talking bad about him. What happened to the Grinch? Finish the story then, bro. Finish the story.
Do you even Grinch, bro? Yeah, exactly. Jesus. They didn't learn the lessons of the Grinch. Okay, so here's what Lindsey Graham had to say. I think he will remain firm because I think that's where West Virginia is at. He's a Democrat and he wants to help his Democratic colleagues, but he represents West Virginia. So from his point of view, I think he's doing his job. He's telling his Democratic colleagues, from where I come from, this is a bridge too far. The most important part of all of that is I think he will because I think that's where West Virginia is at. Oh, that's where you think West Virginia is at. That's the interesting thing about thinking in the age of the internet. Sometimes you can confirm or deny your thoughts by looking for actual evidence. And no, that's not at all where West Virginia is at. Over 79% of West Virginia voters say they support the For the People Act, including 76% of Republicans and 79% of independents. 76% of Republicans support it. 76% of Republicans don't support free shotgun day, but they support the For the People Act. But I think that they're against it. And the thing is, that is as stupid coming out of his mouth as it is when Joe Manchin implies that he's just doing what West Virginia really wants. They almost couldn't be more unified in their support for this. If you're from outside of the US or whatever, you may not know, nothing gets 79% approval. Literally nothing gets it. Vaccination doesn't get it, by the way. But this is one of the bits of cover that they use to hide the real reasons that Joe Manchin is doing what he's doing.
Yeah, you're supposed to ignore the polls. You're supposed to ignore what people have told you. You're supposed to ignore the people that have sent letters and called your office, because that's something from 1972 that happens. I don't want to discourage people from that. But after it's all said and done, you just tell the people what it is that they believe to their face. So the people of West Virginia told me that they don't want, he said this all, they don't want a higher minimum wage. So do you think people in West Virginia are like, yeah, you know what? That's $7.25. That's fine. Hey, you know what? To my employer who's gonna raise my minimum wage, double it potentially. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna let you keep that. I'm okay. That's cool. I don't need that gas money. No food. Come on. I work at McDonald's. I'll just take the free ones. That's what the people of West Virginia are saying, right? Come on, man. Like the upside down world that they want to pitch us to tell us that rich billionaires, who we just discovered yesterday, aren't paying their taxes. And they would like more money, but poor people that are making $7.25 an hour are like, I'm good. You keep that.
Well, look, this nonsense, let's put that aside for a second. Let's talk about what's real. There have been a lot of attempts to explain why Joe Manchin and other senators like him, but especially Joe Manchin, isn't gonna vote for anything and doesn't support even mild reform to the filibuster to make it actually like the filibuster. It's that he's too dumb. He doesn't know the history. We need to sit him down and explain it to him. He doesn't get the electoral consequences of his obstructionism. He doesn't know about the history of the filibuster when it comes to civil rights. He really just cares about bipartisanship. There actually are Republicans that can cross over, and this is how you do it. Those are all, I love you for having debates. We love a vigorous debate, but those are not the reason. Some of them might also be true. I think there's a lot about history he doesn't know, and he seems kind of dumb, but that's not the actual reason. What's the actual reason? Well, thankfully, it's coming out. People are talking about it. Here is AOC.
Is that HR 1 stands up against lobbyists and dark money. And I would reckon to think that this is probably just as much a part of Joe Manchin's calculus as anything else. Because when it comes to this bipartisan argument, I gotta tell you, I don't buy it. Because Joe Manchin has voted for bills that have not been bipartisan before. Look at the American Rescue Plan. So this is not just about bipartisanship. This is, I think, because you look at the Koch brothers and you look at, organizations like the Heritage Foundation and conservative lobby groups that are doing a victory lap, claiming victory over the fact that Manchin refuses to change on the filibuster. And I think that these two things are very closely intertwined. And I think that there's a desire to make this just about protecting the franchise, but protecting our democracy is also about making sure that we give lobbyists and dark money groups, which are funding these attacks on the right to vote, the boot. But, corporate money has a very, very tight grip on both parties. And I think that has to do with the calculus in this situation that people aren't really discussing enough.
That's definitely true. Great job by AOC there, Jayar.
100%. 100% is the thing. That's what's not getting said. And as she went through that whole thing, there'll be people that go, "What? That doesn't happen, does it?" Because that's the first level of detachment. The other one is, oh, look at her talking about these unrelated issues. Like it's just this is why you demonize people versus their policies and what they're saying. No one is going to address what AOC is saying. They're going to say, look at AOC talking again. That's all it takes. Oh, AOC's talking. She must be saying something I hate. Oh, she's saying something against what Joe Manchin's doing and how corporate money has a hold on politicians across the board. I thought we liked both sides' arguments. Why don't we love this one? Why isn't the media lapping this up? AOC said it's a both sides problem. Both sides are corrupted by corporate money. Why don't we say that? Why aren't we talking about the both sides?
The one
She's nice and fair.
Yeah, you're right. Normally they'd be all over that. Not this one. Especially because the same things that she's indicating are corrupting both parties are also corrupting the media that doesn't want to talk about the fact that they're corrupted. You're totally right. Yes, and she's right. Yeah, he occasionally votes for some things. We occasionally, and we shouldn't say he doesn't support anything. There are some things that he and other corporate Democrats can support that don't actually endanger the stranglehold that corporate America and the 1% have on the American political system. But there are some things that they will not allow. And I will actually say we're sort of lumping two things together here. It's his opposition to the For the People Act and his opposition to doing anything about the filibuster. I actually think he would be much more likely to support the bill than reforming the filibuster, because the bill, all they need to do, I think, to get him to support it is to take out the fact that dark money disclosures would be enhanced and that sort of thing. Like, obviously his corporate overlords don't want their role in politics to be more obvious. Most of it he's probably okay with, but the filibuster is bigger, because getting rid of the filibuster means he now has to actually engage with every piece of legislation. Right now he doesn't. So does he actually support the infrastructure bill? Will he actually support something that has to do with the pharmaceutical industries? All this, he is protected from having to vote at all on those bills by the fact that they'll just automatically be filibustered. He doesn't actually want that. A case can be made that he's not necessarily that interested in it becoming easier for Democratic senators to get elected, because then eventually the filibuster might not even be necessary. It might not even matter if the actual distribution of power in the Senate was reflective of the actual will of the people, because that would again put him in a position where he has to actually vote on legislation that potentially endangers the only constituents of his that he actually cares about.
And those are those.
It's all corruption.
And all those are corporations. By the way, he get my last thought on this section of his thought process. He can honestly say, I would like for Americans to make more money. I would like for voting rights to pass. I would like for women to get paid equal amounts as their male counterparts. I would, but the people who pay me don't want that. I work for them. There's plenty of people. I'm sure there's folks that work at Fox News that don't like the conservative lying agenda that most of the shows on there push. But I'm just a producer on the show, bro. It's just the whole network is pushing this direction. I can't go any different. I don't want to, but they're paying me to do differently. That's all that he's saying. It's all the politicians are. They go into office saying they want to do a certain thing, and then once they're there, they start doing other things based off of who's paying them and who's influencing them, not based off of their principles anymore. Yeah. So I just get paid by my bosses to do their work. That's Joe Manchin's doing. He's not doing work for himself or for his constituents. He's doing it for the people who are paying them.
Yeah, related to this, we got a super chat from Hilltop Ironworks who says, glad that Bowman and AOC are hinting at corporate money, but they should be specific. Read off FEC filings during the next interview. That's spicy. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of that. We're gonna have to unfortunately jump around a little bit, but to go to Jamal Bowman's tweet, he said Congress could end this oligarchy today if they wanted to, but they don't, and we know why. They don't serve the people. The filibuster, bipartisanship, and every myth perpetuated by Manchin and so-called moderates preserves a system built for and by the wealthy elite, which it's not pulling any punches there. Yeah, that's the case. That's what it's upholding. All this myth stuff is nonsense. But let's go into one bit of the myth and then show you what gets killed by that continued nonsense. So earlier today, the Republicans in the Senate once again deployed the filibuster, not in a way that actually hurts them, where they have to actually talk and do it like in the movies and all that. It's just an automatic thing, and then it's over. We're done. We're already moving on. And they killed the Paycheck Fairness Act. So it failed to pass a cloture vote by a 49-50 margin. It passed the House in April, 217 to 210 vote along party lines. So no Republicans voted for it, for women to be ensured equal pay for equal work to men. So, and you're probably wondering, hey, wait, didn't any of the Republican women vote for it? No, they didn't. Republican women in the Senate and the House voted against women receiving equal pay. The reason it's 49 rather than 50 is that for some reason, Senator Gillibrand didn't vote on it, even though this is like one of her biggest priorities. I don't entirely understand that. But anyway, it was filibustered. And now it's done. We're done. We're not gonna get it. Doesn't matter that it's super popular. It's already bipartisan in the way that matters. It's done. So why? Where were the good Republicans, Jayar? Why didn't the good Republicans support it? We could do it. It's so important. And Joe Manchin, he's disappointed. He said every American deserves to have a good paying job with a livable wage in order to provide for their family and contribute to their community. And being a woman shouldn't impact being able to make ends meet. The first vote I took in the Senate was for paycheck fairness, and it is far past time for these inequalities to be addressed. As an original co-sponsor of this bill, I am disappointed that the Senate was unable to pass this much needed legislation, but I will continue the fight for equal pay across the United States. Will I do the one thing necessary to make it happen? Getting rid of the filibuster? No, screw women. They can make whatever they end up making. I don't care, but I am disappointed in the meantime. We were unable to pass it. I don't know why. It's something probably complicated, but I'm very disappointed about the process.
I can't figure it out. Hey, 2 quick questions after that statement, which I don't think he said. He must have put it down as a statement and not actually spoken to anyone. Although he would have gotten the same lack of responses and questions, even if he did. But he says he's been fighting for paycheck fairness from the beginning, and he's disappointed. One question: who are you disappointed in, Joe? Who are you disappointed in? Because look what he said. I'm an original co-sponsor of this bill. I'm disappointed that the Senate was unable to pass. You stressed that, was unable to pass this much needed legislation. Why weren't they able to pass it? He's covering for the people who are making sure these things don't pass. You think a politician doesn't know who voted against something that you co-sponsored? You co-sponsor a bill and you have no idea who exactly is voting against your bill. When you co-sponsor a bill, these are things that people put their names on so they can run on them for re-election. Anytime a politician has any kind of legislation, they like to say, I passed this, I was a co-sponsor on that. There was a bipartisan agreement here and I was a part of it. Look, my name is on the bill. They want to put their name on things so they have some kind of legacy where people can vote for them again. This is supposed to be very important to him, but he doesn't want to name the people that are against his bill. He doesn't say it. It's the Senate that failed it. It's the Senate. So you can include any senator. You can include anyone. You can say Schumer's part of the issue because he's in the Senate, right? Because they failed to pass it, number one. So first off, he didn't point out who's the one who's stopping it. And number two, how are you gonna continue this fight? You said you're gonna continue the fight. How? What's next? There's no, those questions don't have to be answered because there's no answer to them. There's no one that he's upset at, and there's nothing else he's gonna do.
He's not gonna do the only things that would actually matter. They're not gonna support it. They don't care. You're not gonna get 1. You're not gonna get 2. You damn sure aren't gonna get 10. It's just not gonna happen. So that is another thing that has died thanks to his nonsense, dishonest. He's not even saying the real reason why support for the filibuster.
Give this fool a week. Ask him in a week. What are you doing now, Joe? Hey, women are still making less than their male counterparts. What are you doing now? Hey, I've got women in West Virginia on the phone, Joe. You know those people you say you represent? They're looking to find out what you're gonna do next. You told us you're fighting still. What's next?
Well, you can't make a bipartisanship omelet without breaking a few women's aspiration to make what they deserve. Okay, with that, we are gonna take our first break. We're gonna check in with the audience, see what they've been saying. Lots more news to come, including we're gonna be checking in on the Alabama coal miners strike. And as I said earlier, 2 of the stupidest videos I've seen in a very long time after this. Okay, so let's see what's going on out there. A lot of workers rightfully angry at the situation that has faced them coming out of the pandemic. I would say not nearly enough, #general strike, but let's turn to one. Down in Alabama, there is a major strike going on. About 1,100 coal miners represented by the United Mine Workers of America in Brookwood, Alabama have been on strike since the start of April against Warrior Met Coal amid new union contract negotiations. And wait until you get a load of some of the numbers that we're talking about here. The current agreement that the union has right now was negotiated as Warrior Met emerged from bankruptcy proceedings of the former Walter Energy, which declared bankruptcy 5 years ago. Union members say that in that deal, because it was coming out of bankruptcy, they made numerous concessions in pay and benefits, holidays, overtime, and other areas so that the company could keep going and could come out of bankruptcy. And obviously the idea is that at some point, if the company becomes profitable again, then they should get those concessions back. Why would they continue to suffer when the company no longer was? They say that miners lost about $6 an hour under the bankruptcy contract, which added up even more when you consider the accumulation of overtime. So $6 really, well, we're gonna go back to this graphic in just a second, but $6 an hour, Jayar, is a massive cut to pay. It doesn't matter what you make. $6 coming out of it, well, unless you're like a billionaire, is very significant. We talk often about raising the minimum wage by a couple of dollars. So right off the bat, not even considering things having to do with benefits and holiday and overtime and all that, that is a big concession. And I can understand why.
Good.
well, why they would want to fix that situation as fast as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, $6 you're losing from your wage is close to an entire wage for a lot of people that are working minimum wage. That's an entire wage. So if the minimum wage we assume is enough to allow people to just live, think about taking almost that much away from someone's salary. If that's enough, you're taking enough from someone else's salary. That should be pretty significant. It should be something you might want to remedy. Also, this whole loyalty thing that the workers looks like that they gave to this company to make sure they stayed afloat so they can continue to keep their jobs. It's like it's a nice exchange, just doesn't get reciprocated. And we're beginning to see why so many conservatives love Donald Trump, because that's the epitome of the way he does business. The way he did politics as well, actually. Hey, 100% complete, undying, blind loyalty to me. And when it needs to be reciprocated, F you, what's wrong with you? Kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm Donald Trump. Or in this case, I'm, what's this, Maxwood Energy? What is it? Met Energy? Warrior Met Energy.
Warrior Met Coal, yeah.
How dare you? So or maybe it's just, hopefully they'll forget about it. Maybe they make so much damn money, it just doesn't matter. They'll forget about their money and their benefits. What do they give away? Benefits, holidays, overtime pay. Are you kidding me? All of this is given away so you can stay afloat. And then once you're afloat, you start shoving people off the boat.
Exactly, and it's even gonna get a little bit worse, actually. But yeah, so $6 an hour loss. They have a tentative offer where the company's proposing to the union a $1.50 raise over 5 years, not immediately.
Jesus,
over 5 years. So unless they become much more benevolent over those 5 years, you're looking at 20 years to get back what you lost in helping the company get out of bankruptcy. And they also say that the new offer hits their 401k and their pension plans. They have to have longer mandatory shifts and stuff like that. So that's obviously crazy. Now, as I said, it does get worse really fast. I want to address something that I saw going on in the YouTube chat, which is bigger question. Why are we mining coal at all? And I saw some talk about like, yeah, but they're coal workers. Totally with you. I would prefer if we never extracted another handful of coal out of the ground. That said, while it's happening, I want the workers to be respected as I want the workers in basically every field to be respected. I would love for them to receive raises in pay and then be trained for other industries, totally. But as long as it's happening, I'm not okay with workers being exploited even in industries that I hate or think that are fundamentally immoral or doing damage. So I think that I'm being consistent with my values, but I'm always down to be checked, so thank you for that. Now really fast, in terms of the disrespect, James Treweek says, we were required to work 6, sometimes 7 days a week for 12 hours a day. We worked on a 4-strike system, which meant missing 4 days in a year resulted in termination. The only thing that was accepted as an excuse was a death in the immediate family. We had to work sick with the flu and many other illnesses in fear of losing our jobs. That is insane. 4 days, you're done. After all that, after all the suffering and the helping the company out, you could do, God only knows how many effectively double shifts for weeks at a time. And if you get sick and you miss a day, that is insane. The only acceptable excuse was a death in the family.
In the immediate family. So I don't know if that includes your grandmother. I don't know if it includes your aunt. Maybe does it include your niece? Nephew, because it's not direct. It's pretty crazy. And then probably have to get some kind of proof as to if this really happened, because the first thought is also they must be scamming us. And this always brings a thought to my head now. Anytime we hear about what corporations or politicians, anyone that has a particular set of power does to normal people, in this case, corporations and businesses, their demands for their employees, if you flip and think about if the employees demanded this of their employers before they do anything, would you be on these employees' side? Because we're already automatically thinking employees suck and they're given this job and this opportunity to build a company into this multi-billion-dollar corporation. They're the ones who are doing it. But if these employees come to the employers and start telling them, hey, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna give me a 110% increase in pay, and I'm gonna take as many days off as I want. And then after that, you're gonna get, it's like, these demands are outrageous. And then when people stand up against them, we go, how dare they? Yeah. Why don't we have the same kind of respect for these workers that we have for corporations that we should have no kind of connection to? What are they doing for us that we have such this mentality?
I agree. And that mentality, let's show maybe one of the natural outgrowths of that. So we've got these coal miners that are striking in Alabama, and I know what you're probably thinking. Republicans love coal, so they love the those who have been left behind. So they've got to be down there on the picket line to support it. No, they hate them. They want their unions to fail. They want them to get paid as little as possible. So I don't know. Like, there's probably a lot of coal workers that would probably on sight knee jerk hate someone like me and assume that I'm like the devil, some commie, but I want you to make more money and I want you to be better off. They don't. Is that weird? Maybe think about that. But anyway, in addition to not getting support from Republicans, they are now facing the same basic thing that happens to all who are protesting in some form. They're being brutalized and intimidated. And in fact, we have video of that.
Hey!
Yeah, so that apparently just happens. According to the UMWA International President, Warrior Met personnel, either management or non-union workers, have repeatedly struck our members who are engaging in legal picket line activities with their vehicles. That one was on video, but apparently it's just a thing that happens now. They say we have members in casts, we have members in the hospital, we have members who are concerned about their families and potential of violence against them if they come to the picket line. So, and where's Tucker Carlson? Where's Ben Shapiro? These are supposedly your people. You pretend that you care about them. They're not only getting left behind economically, as the company is now doing much better. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was a downturn, as there was with most industries, but now they're pulling in literally hundreds of millions of dollars in net income. They can afford to raise those wages. In addition to that, the people who are doing, like, isn't the First Amendment, they say that that's what the intellectual dark web and all that is about? They're participating in it. Now, I know that I sometimes have to remind these people that the First Amendment is about more than giving high paid speeches at college campuses. It's about organizing for your rights and for pay as well. And now they're being attempted to be scared away. People have already been injured. They've already been put in the hospital. And it's not really even being talked about.
Isn't it weird? The powers that be, this is like a standard reaction. The powers that be, once they're finally confronted after getting away with these kinds of thefts of normal people's wages and their workers' rights, after getting away with it for so long, when someone finally says, you know what, we're tired of it, the next response is violence. Isn't that crazy? It's been since the beginning. I mean, whatever beginnings you want to start with, but just the way the country was built off of just enslaved people. Hey, they get online, start going with violence, murder, kill, separation, intimidation. That's the way we're still doing it. It's 2021. Just because now we have workers of every race that are now getting used like this is like the basis for like business in America. Hey, once we get through using you and abusing you and getting away with it for long enough, you say, hey, stop it, and we start killing, murdering, even in this case, just injuring and intimidation. They're worried about their families now back at home, whether or not they're gonna do something to them. This is based off your job. This isn't anything crazy and over the top. The thing that we tell Americans to do from the beginning, hey, start working, hey, start working, hey, start working. And they work their whole lives and they actually wanna get paid for that work. And now we start assaulting them. This is and then use other people for it as well. So use other lower level people, other employees, maybe who aren't in the union, and executives, of course. They'll be the ones to help do this. Just utilize it. Go with violence.
Go with violence, and then remember, several state legislatures have approved of exactly what you saw in that video. If they get in your way, you get to hit them. Like that's what they say. Now they weren't thinking of coal miners when they were passing that. But that's what people want to do. They want to get away with this violence, and they've been allowed to do so. By the way, really fast, what like if Bernie Sanders or AOC went down to stand with the picketers, I wonder what would happen. Like, it would be consistent. They support striking workers who want higher wages all the time. I'm sure that they support these strikers. So I wonder. I think they should do it. I know a lot of people in the chat are like, no, screw them, they're Trump supporters. Well, but maybe this would be an opportunity to show them that the left is actually on their side and they should accept that. Anyway, really fast, let's turn to this next story because it does tie in with what we were talking about earlier about dark money. Right now in Arizona, they are continuing their audit of the ballots with their cyber ninjas and their belief that it's gonna result in Donald Trump being instated as president, which it totally is not. There's a lot of issues with that. One of them, though, is monetary. And that is that we don't know exactly where the money for this audit of the ballots is coming from. You have Republicans in the Arizona State Senate, so they came up with this and they allocated $150,000 to pay for it, but that is not enough to cover the entire thing. They could have paid everything, but they did not, leaving it open for the influence of dark money, and that is what we have gotten. So there's this review that was done by Open Secrets and The Guardian. They've been looking into this because the company Cyber Ninjas will not say where they got all of the money. We do know that at least 150K of it came from Voices and Votes, which just based on the name, that's gonna end up being bad. But that's run by Christina Bobb, an anchor for One America News Network.
Ugh.
The group is also run with the White House correspondent Chanel Rion, literally one of the craziest people in the entire country, and her fiance. Now, despite that, and despite the fact that Christina Bobb plugs the effort on air on OAN. So it's being run, an organization run by multiple of their on-air personalities. It's being talked about on air. They told BuzzFeed that OANN is not in any way affiliated with it. It objectively is. Like you can't just, it is. It's not up to you at that point. So we know that that's a lot of money. We know that Lynn Wood may be crazier than Chanel Rion. That is entirely possible. Donated $50,000 to that group for the review. And there's other stuff too. There's this former chief executive for Overstock.com, Patrick Byrne. But we don't know if there might be other organizations, domestic, international. I don't know. But I know that the Republican Party is really focused on this. And this is exactly what the Republicans are trying to keep the system like in this situation. This is the status quo they want when they try to stop in the For the People Act the disclosure of dark money. They love the fact that all these billionaires and groups can be throwing money at stuff like this without anyone even knowing about it.
That's the plan. So, and again, and this stuff does get reported now. We do know about the dark money, but when does it actually get highlighted? When does someone say, hey, look what's happening with this dark money? You might want to wonder what their interest is in funding such a thing like this. Why don't they want to be known? Why don't they want their faces connected to their funds that they're doing to help push this? Yeah. Politically, if you're really doing something for people, if you're doing something to help election security across the country, don't you want your face attached to that? I mean, anyone else that does something good for the people wants their face attached to it, especially political groups. Hey, why not corporations that want to make sure they have a nice positive outlook on this general society? You would think they'd be like, yes, we at whatever organization and created PAC that we just put together have given $1 million to this effort because we're there for the American people. No, they're hiding and they're making sure you can't see them. Why is that? Criminals hide. Criminals make sure you can't see their actions after they've done them. But somehow we can't get that connection in through our heads. I don't understand it.
I agree. I mean, look, we on air, when people give us a donation via super chat, we read it literally on air. Where's the dark money? I don't know. Yeah, you'd think they'd be so excited. I mean, if you're an organization like Voices and Votes and you get this big donation, why aren't you proud of that? Why is that supposed to be hidden? Weird, a little bit suspicious, as well as literally everything else having to do with this story. And this is, by the way, what Joe Manchin is helping to sustain.
Absolutely, I'm glad you tied that back to that.
Anyway, okay, with that, we do have to take our second to last break of the hour. But when we come back, we get into the stupid and the offensive. Attacks against people just desperately trying to get a minimum wage job. Should we not be angry at Donald Trump for anything having to do with coronavirus? Lindsey Graham is gonna make the case and more after this. Okay, Jayar, the news is about to get potentially even worse, certainly more condescending. And as we go into this story, bear in mind what we were just talking about coal miners working to get paid what they think they deserve as we get into this. Fox News recently had on Art Laffer, the economist, the classic supply side economics guy, and they had a discussion about $15 an hour minimum wage. Remember, Fox News broadcast to a group that they say is filled with anxiety about their economic situation, and this is the message they gave to them.
For those people, Sandra, who are coming into the labor force brand fresh, not old timers who've been around for a while, the poor, the minorities, the disenfranchised, those with less education, young people who haven't had the job experience, these people aren't worth $15 an hour in most cases. And so therefore, when you have a $15 an hour minimum wage, they don't get that first job. They don't get the requisite skills to earn above the minimum wage. And after a few years, they become unemployable. And after becoming unemployable, they become hostile.
Okay, so Jayar, that's bad in a lot of ways. Some of them perhaps are obvious, some maybe not so much. I have a few thoughts. What did you think about Art Laffer's point there?
So Art, why do you hate the American people? Why do some of those people come in without the skills necessary? And then after they get, what do you say, not radicalized, then they get not violent. There's a term used right at the end, like they're just these angry group of people that have just, they've been given so many opportunities and they just got mad because they suck, because they don't deserve life. They don't deserve a livable wage. This is what libs that everyone says are these radical, bloodthirsty socialists have been saying. You don't support Americans. You don't love this country. You dislike their existence. So when I go back when Sean Hannity was mad because people said that you don't like clean air and clean water, he said, of course the Republican Party likes clean air and clean water. And every time we talk about clean air and clean water, you talk about how these people don't deserve it because they're lower than dirt. They don't deserve it. You don't get basic human factors to live your life. You don't get them. Hey, food on the table and kids. Who cares? What are you talking about? You don't deserve it because the minimum wage is only strictly for 16-year-olds entering the workforce to build some kind of life skills to then take themselves to the next step. Yeah. Which one of these jobs builds some kind of basis when you're getting paid $7 an hour to then become a CEO of some company and be a bloodthirsty, bad person that I'm not gonna cuss on air about? So how does that build you to that point? No one gives you that. Does it give you some skills to go to college when you're 16, working at McDonald's? The next step then going on and then incurring all of that debt? None of this is talked about. It just says, oh, it's so simple. You work a $7 job, then it goes to 10, then it goes to 15, then it goes to 20. Next you know, you're making $1 billion. That's not how this works, bro. None of that works that way. There's plenty of people that have full-on families that work 2 minimum wage jobs because they need to somehow feed them and then put gas in their car to get to that same job that takes everything else from them.
Yeah, that's totally true. Everything you said is true. I mean, I would add, and we have to add this to virtually every one of these Fox segments that we respond to. Minimum wage jobs are not just transitional jobs for 17-year-olds. That's not what it is. There is not a conversation on Fox that does not pretend or assume that these are just supposed to be things that you get for a little bit, you get some job experience, then you move on to something else. That is not how it works for everyone. Lots of people are older, they're desperately trying to stay alive, to keep their family fed and housed, working 1 or 2 jobs like this. They don't have the privilege to be thinking about their job, like their skills growth for later careers or whatever. They're trying to live in their actual life with a job that isn't paying them nearly enough. Not everybody in McDonald's is 14. Even the 14-year-olds deserve to make more money, but they're not all that age. And just the assumption that we are only because for them it was, oh, I worked one summer at Dairy Queen, that's what it is. No, for a lot of people, that's not what it is. But specifically here for Art Laffer, as many people have now acknowledged, what he said was not that these positions aren't worth $15. He said these people aren't worth $15. It's not that the role just doesn't merit it. I just don't value fries, being prepared enough. It's these people, the poor, the young, the minorities. I don't even understand how he got to including all of those groups and people who are newly entering the job market. Yes, the young are newly entering the job market. What are you talking about? Minorities are newly entering the job market. They're just living in America. That's everybody. But those people are not worth $15. They're not good enough. That is an insane thing that got no response from the host there.
Well, that's because that's the normal thought process. It's the reason why the basis for all this. He pointed out the poor, the minorities don't deserve it. That's why when you see a minority with something, and then maybe they're making a certain amount of money that you can tell, say like pro athletes. People hate that. They hate it. They go, you don't even deserve that. Overpaid athletes. Have you ever heard that term before? It's the first thing they say about them, because apparently they don't do the right amount of work to get that amount of money. I'm jealous that they're getting more than me, because when I look at that type of person, that person doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
They don't deserve it because I'm seeing who it is. This is all, this is the reason when people keep talking about how, black folks or whatever minorities always bring up race, we bring it up because you keep feeding it and throwing it at my face. Somehow the minorities don't deserve it. So when these minorities do get what you think they don't deserve, it's time to get upset with them and tell them how much a piece of garbage they are and they don't deserve this and deserve that, overpaid, you can't do this, you can't do that, how dare you speak up, just shut up and dribble. It's all derogatory things to make sure that you find yourself mentally on this superiority complex over someone else that is the other. It's constant and it's every day to the point where people don't even see it, but they definitely internalize it.
That I do. I have exactly that sort of jealousy that you do, but not the form that you said. I am jealous of the athlete, but not for me. I just think that the wrong athletes are making the money. It should all go to Simone Biles. Did you watch her? It's been 6 years since she finished a world competition at anything other than #1. She should get all of their money. They don't deserve it like she does. Anyway.
Yep.
Yes. Now that said, we are running low on time. Let's talk about Lindsey Graham. Isn't that what you requested that, right? You sent me an email last night. Let's do some Lindsey Graham.
I don't know why we didn't start with this.
I know. Well, we wanted to get to Hunter Biden first. Okay, let's move into this. Lindsey Graham is frustrated that with the new conversation we're having about the possible origins of COVID-19, that people are still frustrated at all with the way the pandemic was handled here. Here's Lindsey Graham.
Why does this matter? If Trump was right about the lab leak, it would change the image the public had of President Trump regarding the coronavirus.
No, it wouldn't, and it certainly shouldn't. So what they're saying is, if it is that originally COVID-19 was released in some way from a lab, then why are you all mad at Trump? First of all, what an amazing rewriting of history that Trump at the beginning said it was released from this lab, and then what? First of all, he just spread a bunch of conspiracy theories, and what he said about it changed literally every day. There are a number of tweets of him talking about how awesome the Chinese government was doing at containing the whole thing. They're doing the best job ever. That was before it was here. So I guess that's not what you're talking about, Lindsey Graham. You're talking about some other point on that continuum where he said what? That they purposefully released it, that they accidentally released it, whatever. It wouldn't matter though, Jayar, because the thing is, it got here. And so if he was right, let's say whatever he was right about, and Lindsey Graham is not specific there, wouldn't that make it even worse that he didn't do anything to protect us from it? If he was apparently so clued into exactly what was going on with COVID, then why did 595,301 people already die from it if he was so right?
Well, Donald Trump continues to be able to be that guy because he can be on the right side of it when he's wrong and on the wrong side of it when he's right. It just doesn't matter. Just put him in the right spot to make him look better. So again, yeah, he knew everything about COVID, but then he didn't. And if he did know everything about COVID and where it was coming, which people said he knew, they denied that because it would make him look like he just ignored it, papered over it, and downplayed it, which he did. So whichever scenario fits the right time to talk about how great Donald Trump was in his response, you just insert Donald Trump's name there. And anytime we find the real responsibilities that he neglected there, oh, Donald Trump had nothing to do with that. It's just pull him out, put him back in whenever you need, and then somehow idiots follow behind. And this is just a continuation of that. It just keeps working.
Yeah. It's such an insane thing to say. I won't say to believe because I don't think he believes really anything he says, but to say it at all. It's like, oh, if it turns out Trump was right at some point, well, the fact that my stepdad died of COVID doesn't bother me as much anymore. I guess we're good now. No.
Well, then ask him next question. So since Donald Trump was pushing the lab leak theory the whole time, not leak, purposefully sent it out to the world is actually what the conspiracy theory was, not lab leak. They said they sent it out as a biological weapon. So if that was the case, then that means you want something else to be done about it, right? What did you do about it? Since it was a biological weapon that the Chinese unleashed on the world and wanted to make sure we all died. Why did you let it happen then?
Yeah.
You didn't protect Americans like you said your number one priority is the way conservatives like to talk about how they protect Americans. You didn't protect us and you knew everything that was happening. Why not? Because you know what happened when you said that the Chinese did this to everyone? Violence against Asian Americans.
Yep.
Then that'd be Chinese. Violence against Asians across probably the world was on increase because, hey, they're out to get us. You know, look at that one person's face. That's the type of person that's gonna come get you. Oh man, they carry the virus like some petri dishes and they're just spreading it to everyone. Yep. This is the stupidity that branches from that kind of conspiracy theory.
Exactly, and from him it spread to right-wing media. Yeah, and like if he was right, was he right about hydroxychloroquine? Was he right about bleach? Was he right about masks? Was he right about the vaccine? Dude got COVID. Was he right about anything? About the gatherings? Right. Anyway, really fast, I'm gonna give you the actual updated numbers. 33,207,000 plus cases. We are now up to 63.8% of American adults who've had at least one dose of the vaccine. Supposedly, this is CDC.gov, but I've seen lower numbers at other places. 595,301 deaths, and it's holding at between 600-700 deaths per day, depending. But daily US infections are below 15,000 as of yesterday. This is the lowest that we've seen since within just a few weeks, a month, or of the beginning of the pandemic. And while vaccine doses being administered each day was trending down for a long time, it seems like it's stabilized a little bit, but it is still much lower than it was at its peak. So thankfully he's not in charge. Thankfully we got a lot of people vaccinated, but there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of death and suffering that didn't need to happen. And Donald Trump was responsible for more of it than any other individual. Now that said, we are running very low on time. If you're watching on our linear platform, thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, we've got another half hour coming for you. Some amazing videos of awesome stupidity after this. And now, more Big News Wednesday with Jayar Jackson. And now, less stress. Hey everybody on Twitch and YouTube. That's better, right? That was a little bit better. I think that was better. I think we can all agree. You don't even need to say anything. I think we all agree 100%. We don't need a poll. It's better. Anyway, before we get back into the news, and we have some amazing videos to get to, I want to let you know about two things that are coming up. And one is coming up really soon, in just 27 minutes. Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey is coming up, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. You know who's gonna be joining Dr. Richey? US Senator Jon Ossoff. That's not as big of a guest as Jayar Jackson, but that's a pretty good guest. That's not bad.
I don't like this passive aggressiveness here, John.
Yeah, look, I just want to say, we've had 2 days of indisputable. People seem to love it. And it couldn't happen to a better person. Rashad is amazing. Always love when he's on the show. And I am both sure of and hope that his show is an amazing success, just slightly less so than the Damage Report. I hope that for him, that he does almost as well as I. Anyway, so that's coming up. Also, another special. So we just had our LGBTQ special. We had a lot of fun with that. Great conversations, amazing guests. Coming up on Friday, June 18th, we have our 3rd annual Juneteenth special. You can join Bridget Todd, Kenya Evelyn, Ajoa Asamoah, Dr. James Simmons, Dr. Rashad Richey. Hey, Rashad's all over the place. Jason Carter, Charles Coleman, Wazni Lambre, as they discuss reparations, diversity in politics, representation, voter outreach, and much more. That'll be coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time at tyt.com/live. With Benjamin Dixon hosting the first hour, Jayar hosting the second hour. That is an amazing lineup right there, Jayar. Are you excited for that?
It's fun every year, man. The Juneteenth special is both. It's always exhilarating, informative, and then also nerve-wracking for me. Because look, you look at that lineup of guests, man, and everyone is way smarter than me. And so when you have to facilitate that, I'm always like, man, I want to make sure that I get every smart thought out of these smart people in as limited time as possible. And I need to make sure that I facilitate that. That's my only worry, that I don't get enough of their intelligence broadcast.
You are going to do an amazing job. It's going to be great. So really fast, couple comments before we get back to the news. Brenda says, I live in Phoenix and I'm royally PO'd that these, I can't read all of that, but it's incendiary, have my ballot and are using my tax dollars for this clown show. I understand and approve of your anger. And then RKNG1 Garcia says, vets who received vaccine at VA aren't entered. Feds don't share vaccine info with state government trying to fix it. Okay, well that explains it. It's not acceptable. They've got to fix that. That's just terrible. Like of all the groups to be left out, that's bad. And finally, Lawrence Wells says, I misread the title that Gohmert was going to move to the moon for us. Yes, please, and take all his loose teeth, crowns, and caps with him. I love that people haven't forgotten about the tooth thing.
Wait, no, I missed the tooth thing. As soon as it was said, it just sounds good, funny.
Oh, there was a video where one of his teeth appeared to fall out, and I think he swallowed it, right? Didn't he swallow it?
No.
No? Oh, I thought he swallowed it. No, you don't want to lose that. That's nutritious. You got to reintegrate it into the body. So anyway, apparently what is up with Republicans on video and bits of white stuff falling out of their body? Anyway, with that, we're eventually going to get to Louie Gohmert. But first, this. I don't know what it takes to qualify as an anti-vaccine expert, but I'm guessing not much after seeing the video we're about to show you. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who is testifying as an expert in favor of House Bill 248 in Ohio, which would keep a business or the government from requiring vaccinations. She is very concerned about vaccines, and I'm very concerned about her. Let's watch.
And some of the information that I think had been discussed on your podcast related to EMF frequencies.
That was a thought.
And
it was, because right now we're all kind of hypothesizing. I mean, what is it that's actually being transmitted that's causing all of these things? Is it a combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it? I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick. Because now we think that there's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've long suspected that there was some sort of an interface, yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and all of the 5G towers. Not proven yet, but we're trying to figure out what is it that's being transmitted to these unvaccinated people.
What is it that's being transmitted to you? She's so close to the truth too, Jayar. Because like what you have to come to realize is you can't try to bend the spoon. That's impossible. You must come to realize there is no spoon stuck to my head. That was in public, and she said those things on purpose.
So
it didn't work. I was Bill Gates. I want my money back.
Well, there's not enough metal in that particular set of keys. Maybe those keys are made out of aluminum.
This Blue Yeti is like total metal. I'm getting nothing off of this.
Well, again, this is what it takes to get on that kind of stage and be considered an expert. Again, she mentioned you see it all over YouTube. YouTube.
Over YouTube. On YouTube, we can mock it if we want.
YouTube, bro, I'm an expert. So therefore, the things I'm telling you are happening is off of YouTube, number one. And number two, has been proven yet, but we're getting there. What the hell are you here for then? Hey, I can have any 12-year-old walk up and say, so I watched this YouTube video, right? And they said you can stick spoons to your forehead and keys. And there's these 5G towers that are pulling our brains slowly up and higher to them. So when you start seeing people fly, it's not because they're magical, it's because they're just getting sucked into 5G towers. Anybody can say that. Is she getting paid for this appearance? Is she getting paid for her expertise in any other realm?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that she's directly getting paid, but this is about chasing clout and then sticking it to your forehead where it won't be able to be taken off. By the way, look, I'm obviously, admittedly, an arrogant little S. So I thought that I disproved this whole thing with my key test, but Seth Ian Rosen on Twitch tells me, by the way, keys are always non-magnetic. So I'm not as clever as I thought I was. Seth, don't do that. You know what you're doing. Anyway, so yes, she has some beliefs that are a little bit weird. That said, Jayar, I don't want us to be too quick to discount her research because you portray it as just her being on YouTube. She actually began that testimony, according to Tyler Buchanan, by saying that she's spent up to 10,000 hours researching vaccines since the pandemic began. Little problem with that. There have only been about 11,000 total hours since the Ohio state of emergency was declared. So that doesn't leave a lot of time for sleep. That said, Tyler Buchanan, her only having slept 2 hours a day for the last year is consistent with the video that I just watched. So I'm not sure you proved the point you thought you did, Tyler. I don't think her and Mike Lindell, they need to sleep. Get yourself a good pillow, you know where they are, and take a cat nap, buddy. You're losing it.
Well, apparently Giuliani let us know they also now have slippers. So it's you can even get comfortable. You can even get comfortable with your feet when you go lie down on those pillows to take yourself a couple of naps.
God, anyway, so yeah, she's the expert. One of the representatives, Jennifer Gross, a Republican, a nurse who co-sponsored the bill, saying you can't require vaccination, and in a previous meeting compared businesses that require it to the Holocaust. This is a nurse, said, "What an honor to have you here." There's no typos there. That's what she actually said. Now that said, more than 41% of Ohioans are fully vaccinated. That's good news. I think that's fairly competitive, close to competitive with the country at large. In the past week, though, the state's 7-day average vaccination rate has fallen by 17%. And that said, it is falling, in a lot of places.
Right.
But it can fall for different reasons. It's probably falling in California because so many of us are vaccinated. In other places, maybe it's because the entire government is debating whether it should exist or not. That said, the Ohio governor, supports these raffles and things like that to get people to be vaccinated. So it's not all Republicans, but man, when they're sending their experts, they're not sending their best.
Let me see. Hold on. It's not a metal spoon. But I've got a plastic one. Let's see. Let's see if it works. Oh my God. I'm magnetized to plastic.
Oh no, take down this video. Take down this video. It's gonna pull apart the whole national vaccination kit. Now it did fall off, so I assume you only had one dose. You haven't gotten your second jab yet.
It's a plastic spoon.
Oh God. J&J lets me start fires with my brain. God,
I must have got wrong. I think the Pfizer one allows plastic to stick to you. It's not really scientific based because there's no magnetism between plastic and the magnets in my head. But I mean, it's some new technology.
No, that's plastokinesis.
And if this goes on,
that's a tier 5 omega level mutation. Anyway,
now that said, this is indisputable evidence. This is now expert level stuff.
Well, hold on. We're gonna wait for Dr. Rashad Ritchie to determine if it's indisputable or not. But anyway, now here's what I want. Assuming that Brooke is on Twitch right now, in a minute, I'm gonna want a poll. We've got the Magneto woman. Is that dumber than what we're about to show you as we transition into this story? For a long time, Louie Gohmert has not had any interest in doing anything about climate change, which is unfortunate. Now, he has perhaps changed his view and wants something to be done, but what he wants to be done is maybe even more unfortunate. So here he is talking with an actual representative of the United States Department of Agriculture about his ideas.
And I understand from what's been testified to the Forest Service and the BLM, you want very much to work on the issue of climate change. I was informed by the immediate past director of NASA that they have found that the moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. We know there's been significant solar flare activity. And so is there anything that the National Forest Service or BLM can do to change the course of the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? Obviously, that would have profound effects on our climate.
I would have to follow up with you on that one, Mr. Gohmert.
Yeah. Well, if you figure out a way that you in the Forest Service can make that change, I'd like to know.
Woo!
Now, before you go getting all high and mighty and implying that he is as dumb as he looks and sounds, he did give you two options. He is open-minded. The Bureau of Land Management can either move the moon's orbit or the entire Earth's orbit. Either way, take your pick, vis-a-vis the moon, vis-a-vis the sun. He's giving you two options, which that has doubled the chance that that wasn't the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What do you think, Jayar?
Well, I'm trying to look up the about page for the Bureau of Land Management to see what our mission. Let's see if the mission has something to do with pulling the Earth's rotation closer to the sun, or whatever the hell he just said. The Bureau of Land Management's mission is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of public lands for the use and enjoyment of present and future generations. I think they left off the part about having some kind of magical power to pull the Earth. What did he say again? The Earth's rotation around the sun to do something about that
orbit.
Change the orbit, and we've seen how the moon's orbit around the Earth has been changed. So therefore, maybe we can change those things. You know what's crazy about these kind of folks? They think we as just this American, whatever, this group in America, this government agency in America, can literally change Earth's orbit and the moon's orbit. We can do that because we're Americans, right? And we're just, I don't know, we're magical like that. But man's influence on the climate, man's pollution, his effect on climate change, that's just BS. That's crazy. That doesn't happen. Man can't affect the climate. The climate just changes. We can't change that. We can't explain it. But what we can do is we can change the entire Earth's rotation around the sun and the moon's rotation around the Earth, because we have the power to. It doesn't add up. We're super powerful, but we're completely weak. It's the way we've always said about everything in America, and I've said it a million times, so please don't make me go through it again. We're the weakest country in the world, but we're also the strongest. We're the richest country in the world, but we're also the poorest. And now we can't do anything about climate change, but then we can, as long as we change the Earth's orbit.
Yeah.
Please make it.
So you did go down the path of the high and mighty. You didn't accept it as an actual proposal. I wanted to engage with it seriously, but you refused to actually do that. Look, I personally think that it's worth at least 10,000 hours of research over the next year. And I think it's important that we investigate this firsthand. What is going on with the moon? I personally think that we should send Louie Gohmert to it to check it out, the dark side specifically, and don't feel obligated to come back. So look, could you conceivably move the moon with our technology? Probably not, but it's not inconceivable. I've read this sort of nerdy sci-fi books that have that sort of thing. Is that a good idea, Louie Gohmert? No, I don't think so. And I would argue maybe there's something simpler we could do to deal with climate change. Maybe we shouldn't push the Earth away from the sun. Maybe we should stop digging coal out of the ground and burning it. How about that? How about we use the abundant wind and solar energy that we're just letting go to waste every minute of every day? How about we use that rather than reconfiguring all of the heavenly bodies? That maybe be a little bit simpler, maybe. Now look, I don't believe that he actually believes any of this or cares about any of it. There was enough of a dumb smile on his face that was consistent with him both being dumb and maybe making a joke about it. That's actually worse, because he thinks that this whole thing is fundamentally a joke. But the joke or the reality, whichever it is being informed by a bunch of conspiratorial nonsense. The stuff about the orbits, the stuff about the solar flares, that's not actually affecting climate change, but that is what some people really believe, whether he does or not. It's not true though. The Earth's orbit, tilt, and spin affect the solar energy received by particular regions in the world, depending on the time of day, year, and latitude. That is true. Small changes in the Earth's tilt and the shape of the orbit around the sun cause changes in the climate for 10,000 to 100,000 years. So it's not driving climate change right now, like in the last 15 years. That's not how that works at all. There are some cycles. They don't take place like during the run of The Sopranos. That's not how any of this actually works. And it's not the solar flares either. First of all, the overall temperature versus the solar activity, bring this up. No, the temperature is going up not in sync with the Earth's exposure to solar energy. And it's not about solar flares either. He doesn't actually care about any of this. He doesn't actually care. I need to remind myself so we don't waste all of our time. But because God, he's dumb. Whether he's being honest here or not, he's dumb.
Yeah, the proof of that is if he cared, he would have looked up those same very simple cursory searches and information that you all looked up here to get this information. Be like, well, so can we change it? Instead, he asks the question because he just wants to have his face out there asking stupid questions. One more thing. So I think we did find the answer though. They said small changes in the Earth's tilt and the shape of the orbit around the sun can cause changes for the climate. So if everyone on the Earth just rushes at the same time to one end of the Earth, maybe we can tilt it. You think that'll work?
You know that in physics, there's an equal and opposite reaction to everything that's done. It might be subtle, but in theory, were we to take Louie Gohmert and yeet him off the planet, that would subtly push the planet just a little bit. But anyway, all of this has been leading up to our actual plan. Conservatives of the world, you want the moon to be moved? Well, you fools, we've nearly reached enough vaccinations to magnetically draw it into the Earth. My brain is now reaching out to the magnetic cheese at the core of the moon and drawing it down where it'll kill us all.
Everyone hold up a metal cheese grater and it'll slowly come closer.
Yeah, well, the cheese grater will. It'll attach to my forehead, which is not what you want. Anyway, okay, we are running very low on time. We have time for just a little bit more. So starting today, ending tomorrow, we're gonna touch base with Barack Obama in one of his recent interviews, but I think we can get to the first of these videos now.
Sure.
Barack Obama recently sat down with Anderson Cooper, and one of the topics that came up, regrettably, was cancel culture. And I unfortunately had to watch as Barack Obama, a guy who I don't always agree with, but I think is quite smart, unfortunately bought into the right-wing narratives around cancel culture to some extent. We're gonna show you this video and then we'll respond.
A lot of the dangers of cancel culture and we're just gonna be condemning people all the time. At least among my daughters, that they'll acknowledge that sometimes among their peer group or in college campuses, you'll see folks going overboard. But they have a pretty good sense of look, we don't expect everybody to be perfect. We don't expect everybody to be politically correct all the time, but we are gonna call out institutions or individuals if they are being cruel, if they're discriminating against people. We do want to raise awareness.
So he does get it.
Somewhere in there.
He does get it. It's people advocating for their values. That's what it is. And it's not
people, and then not wanting to continue to promote people that don't and continue to reward people for bad behavior. That's all there is to it. So sure, I agree. Yes, there's people who've done great things who also have their shortcomings as human beings. We know that, from entertainers to musicians to athletes to politicians to anyone, right? People have those things. The question is, once they've discovered their shortcomings, do they do anything about it? Are they being disingenuous in their apologies? Or do they really believe what they're saying and mean what they mean when they tell us, hey, I'm sorry? Or do they come out and deny everything that they said happened? Do they then say that the person who accused them of it is now the one who's coming after everyone else and they're the bad guy? Do they gaslight us, or do they tell us, yep, I grew up a certain way and I believe this, this, and that. I was influenced by this, this, and that. Because I'm just a person that was a product of my environment. I need to do better, and I need to begin to understand the differences in the way things were. Yes, I did those things. That's a bad thing. I was young. I'm learning now. That's a way that you can have some kind of accountability for your past actions rather than denying it all and telling everyone else that they're the ones that are crazy. There's the difference there.
Yeah, and
be redeemable. That's all. Be redeemable rather than expecting to be redeemed.
Yeah, well, and try to earn some sort of redemption, actually care about whether you're improving. A lot of people that are fighting back against this are not people who are making good faith efforts and are being scorned by the purists. They're not trying at all. They're not interested in any sort of evolutionary growth. They know exactly what they're doing and who they're trying to appeal to. Louie Gohmert is not canceled. Louie Gohmert seems to care and is trying. And again, he doesn't give the worst version of it, the most buying into the propaganda version of it, but he seems at least a little bit sympathetic towards it, and that does bother me. Unfortunately, Jayar, that is all the time that we have. Thank you as always for joining us on Big News Wednesday. It would not be the same without you.
So big, we need an hour and a half for it. Tell Rashad that I said I'm sorry, the doctor, Rashad Ritchie, that I said what's up, because he's gonna take it from here.
He will. Thank you. Actually, that's coming up in just a few minutes. We're gonna unfortunately have to go, but I'm gonna be on the second hour of the Young Turks with Anna Kasparian, and coming up in just a few minutes, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Senator Jon Ossoff. How exciting is that? So TYT.com/live, also broadcasting on YouTube. I believe it's youtube.com/indisputable_TYT and twitch.tv/TYT. Very exciting content. You're not gonna wanna miss that. But until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.